Welcome to Jesus Only, spreading the word of Jesus and the gospel, brought to you by Good News Unlimited. And now, please welcome Dr. Desmond Ford.
Does God exist? Well, there are only three options. Either an eternal nothing, made matter and mind, or eternal matter, made mind, or an eternal mind, made matter and mind. And if you are not entirely without hope in intelligence, only one of those you can choose. My friends, it's worth choosing. Pascal said, if you believe you have everything to win and nothing to lose. If you don't believe, you have everything to lose and nothing to win. God help you to be wise today.
You're listening to Jesus Only. You're listening to Dr. Desmond Ford.
If, after all we've thought and lived, all comes to naught, if there's nothing after now, and we be nothing anyhow, and we know that, why live? The answer to that important question is found in another answer to an even more important question. Does God exist? Now, whether you're going to say yes or no, don't make the question trivial. God's existence is either a fact like sand or it's a myth like Santa. And the answer has tremendous impact on all thought and action for everybody who lives. For example, if God does not exist, there's no right nor wrong. Come back, Auschwitz, the Holocaust, Gulag, roll in Stalin, Hitler, Idi Amin. Why not? You'd better put some iron palings around your home tonight if you think God does not exist. For if he doesn't exist, there is no such thing as right or wrong, and there is no safety for any one of us. Secondly, if God does not exist, man doesn't exist either. He's just a meaningless clot of coincidental molecules. No God, no man, no meaning, no hope, no forgiveness, no immortality, no resurrection, no passion about anything, no standard to judge good and evil, no need to praise anything or to condemn anything, because to praise or condemn, you must have a standard. It has to come from him. No God, no man, no standard, no truth, no hope. But there's a third thing. If there's no God, no atheist can be consistent. Imagine the best atheists you know, and many of them are very decent, good people. He's driving down the road. He sees a little child playing in the middle of the road. He's an atheist. He knows that child is no more important than a brown paper bag. So what does he do? He carefully dodges the child. No atheist can live a consistent atheist life. Let me give you 4 reasons why we can believe that God exists. I'm going to talk to you about mind, about order, about goodness, and about Christ. Take the first one, mind. Here is the most complex, marvelous gadget in the universe. That computer on your shoulders. Where did it come from? Dirt? Plus time? Plus chance? Well, if that's how it came, why do you trust it? Here's a milk bottle. It spills over. There's all the milk on the table. Do you think it'll make a map of Sydney streets? Probably not. This mind of ours coalesces with everything outside the mind. There's a rationality inside the mind that matches the rationality outside the mind. How come? How come? Only if God made the mind. Think of the miracle, the peculiar privilege that the agitation of the mind, thought, can give you a model of the whole universe. Now don't miss the point. If the mind's a fluke, you don't expect anything good to come out of it. The face you think you see in your friend, that's an imaginary thing. And whether you're to walk left or right or up or down, who knows? The mind can't be relied on. It's just a chance product. But wait a minute. Most of us have a memory. I have one that goes back 40 years, when I played with the little girl next door, throwing up sand, until I became very sick and they put me in hospital. That's 80 years ago. You have memories. Where did memory come from? How do we look up something in memory? Are we flipping through mental pages year after year, decade after decade? Where did memory come from? Suppose we put the smartest scientists in the world in a house and gave them 6 years to make a memory. They couldn't do it. The memory is beyond human manufacture. Only God could make a memory. You've probably heard of J.B.S. Haldane, great scientist. He said, if my memory processes are governed only by the movement of atoms within my brain, I have no reason to believe my beliefs are true. He was altogether right. When Charles Darwin was writing his autobiography, he wrote this, then arises the doubt. Why should I trust this mind? I believe it evolved from the lowest creature, from the slime. Why should I trust it? Good question, Charlie. Why did you trust it? I want to talk to you about order. We've learnt more in the last 50 years about the universe than in all preceding millennia. And the two main things are these. The universe had a beginning. Now let me say to you, if you have any books published before 1975, burn them, throw them out. If you have a book on evolution that says the universe is eternal, do the same with it. They're out of date. Only since 1975 have we begun to understand the universe we live in. And the two main points are these. The universe had a beginning. Remember an old book that says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Science has caught up at last, after several thousands of years, of course. The other thing is this. All the myriad laws of the universe, all the constants of physics that look so unlike each other, so intent on different courses, they all have one purpose, to make us. It's taken us a long time to find that out. They call it the anthropic principle, first taught by Brandon Carter, a Cambridge scientist in 1973, when they were commemorating the birth and life and death of Copernicus. We now know that this universe is very finely tuned. If we change the force of gravity by 1 part in 100 million, the universe would disintegrate. There are all sorts of things like that. At least 2 score of them are pointed out by scientists today. At the beginning of last century, a very smart man, a Harvard scientist, wrote a book called The Fitness of the Environment. His name was Henderson. He wasn't a Christian, but he said the possibility of the elements of the universe which make our lives possible, the possibility of they're coming about by chance, is not 1 in millions of millions. So, dear friends, what are the chances that God exists? Well, trillions to 1. What we know of the order of the universe proves it had a very meticulous Creator. Now I want to talk to you about goodness. Every sane person believes in goodness. And every sane person knows what goodness is. It's kindness, it's honesty, it's truthfulness, it's purity. And listen, goodness is the most powerful thing in the universe. If you've met a really good person, that's the most powerful person you've ever met. But if we know about goodness, we also have to talk about badness. Because we have eyes, we see the light, and we know what darkness is. But if we had no eyes, and there was no light, we would never recognize darkness. Do you understand me? The reality of good and evil proves the reality of God, because there could not be either without him. And now I want to talk to you about the main reason for believing in God. His name is Jesus Christ. One person in every three in the world we live in worships him. He divides the centuries. BC, AD, before Christ, after Christ. He is the only man who ever lived whose biography was written before his birth, centuries before his birth. May I recommend that you read Micah 5 verse 2, which says where he would be born. Thou Bethlehem, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth, who is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth are from everlasting. That's where. When? Read Daniel 9, 24 to 27. Within 70 weeks of years from the rebuilding of Solomon's temple, the Messiah would come. Not only come, he would be put to death. And the result? Jerusalem would be destroyed. Now think about that, dear friend. It happened. He died about 33 AD, and Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD. Then read Isaiah 52 and Isaiah 53, where there are 15 statements about him coming to die for sinful people. And in those chapters you will find that though he'd be cut off, yet his days would be prolonged, and he would see his descendants. He was to die and be born again, resurrected. It's all there in your Old Testament. The book of Isaiah was written centuries before Christ was born, translated into Greek 200 years before he was born. This is the only man who's ever lived whose biography was written up beforehand. But now let me tell you something else. The riddle of the world is solved by the fact of God. But the riddle of God can only be solved by the fact of Jesus Christ. He was altogether lovely and altogether loving. He loved the unlovely. He died for sinful people like me, like you. Having loved his own that were in the world, it says, he loved them unto the end. His love is unchanging and is unfailing. And get this, it says in Romans 5 and verse 8, that God commends his love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. While we hated him, while we spurned him, while we despised him, while we ignored him, he loved us. And he loved us enough to die for us. Join the wisdom of the angels and thank God that he exists.
Thank you for listening to Jesus Only. To get your free daily devotional to help you focus on Jesus Only, go to goodnewsunlimited.com. To contact us, send us an email at admin@goodnewsunlimited.com. We'd love to hear from you. Please tune in next week at the same place and the same time for more of Jesus Only. Until then, goodbye, and remember, word spreads fast.